So, welcome back to the Prescription of Travel MD podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Courtney Downes, and today we're diving into something I think so many of us need more of: intentional rest, travel, and mindset shifts. So, I'm a little under the weather today myself, coming off a string of nights and probably suffering from cortisol disruptions and exposure to all the elements at work. And honestly, I could use a retreat myself. So, this episode couldn't have come at a better time. Today, we're going to be talking about coaching and travel and the power of saying yes to a retreat, especially as high achieving women who rarely hit the pause button. But before we dive in, I did want to give you 3 actionable steps that you can take to finally book that first retreat that you've been thinking about and haven't hit the play button on yet. So, number 1, decide that you're worth it. That's not just a cute saying. I truly want you to give yourself permission to want rest and fun and connection, okay? That's your prescription right there. Number 2, identify the type of retreat that excites you. Maybe it's wellness, or maybe it's adventure, it's luxury. Look for something that really just sparks your curiosity or calmness. And if you need some help with that, my next guest has you covered. Number 3, pick a date and put it on your calendar. Even if you don't have every single detail figured out yet, making space is really going to be that first commitment. And everything else will figure itself out, I promise you. When the episode's over, I want you to remember these 3 things, okay? Now, I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Priyanka Venugopal. She is a master certified coach, physician, and founder of the Unstoppable Mom Brain. So, in this episode, we're talking about what it really takes for high achieving women, especially moms and physicians, to just break free from burnout and people pleasing and hustle culture and step into a life that includes more ease, more joy, and yes, more travel. Dr. Priyanka is going to share with us the inspiration behind her upcoming retreat in Cabo, how she uses coaching to create sustainable change, and how travel can really be just a powerful catalyst for transformation. If you've ever felt guilty about taking time off or investing in yourself, this episode is especially for you. Now, let's get into the show. So, welcome to the show, Priyanka. It is a pleasure to have you here. I'd love for the audience to really just get to know you. So, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your story?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. And thank you to our mutual friend, Devin, who introduced us, which I'm so excited about. Yeah, a little bit about me. I am a physician. I'm an OB-GYN as my background, and I am now a stress and weight loss coach for professional women who self-identify as overachievers or perfectionists, women that love being productive all the time. And, I would say up until a few years ago, I'm very much my own first client. So I have always been the person since as early as 6 years old, the girl that wants to raise her hand and get called by the teacher because I always knew the answer. And I've always been that person that has found myself perpetually overworking, overthinking, always problem solving, always like being the problem solver in every group I go into. And that would be in my family unit of 4 with my 2 kids. I'm the problem solver with them and the problem solver for my patients. Like that's, I think, for physicians, that's what we are. We're like professional problem solvers for people head to toe. And I think that it's one of those skills that was always a superpower, but also there came a point a few years ago where it started to lead to not quite burnout. I never got to burnout, but just teetering on not feeling my best despite me having on paper what seemed like a really good on paper life. I just wasn't feeling my best. And so that was when I just started to embark on a slightly different journey, a self-growth journey, a self-discovery journey on how to take real pause for myself, how to detach from my to-do list just a little bit so I could have the not just good on life paper, the A plus on life, but like feel A plus on the inside. And so that's kind of what led me here.
Nice. Yeah. So I think, yeah, being an overachiever is definitely a gift and a curse, right? And so you do all these things and you decided that you were going to help other women do the same. And you created the Unstoppable Mom Brain. So tell us a little bit more about that.
It's wild because I have no entrepreneurs in my family. And when I was in practice, this was back in 2018, 2019, I was just, practicing as an OB-GYN physician. And again, I loved my practice. I loved my patients. I wasn't one of the many physicians that are overworked and kind of teetering on burnout, but I discovered coaching through a podcast, kind of like this. You find a podcast and the podcast is just amazing, and you start going down the rabbit hole of every single episode. And I realized that there was a whole world out there that I just realized I had not been tapping into. And that is the world of mindset, the world of personal power. How can we take our exact same circumstances, but feel better navigating our life as busy professional women? And so I started to do a lot of this work myself over about 18 months or so. I lost 60 pounds, which was really the main thing that took me into coaching to begin with, was weight loss and feeling my best. But I just started to change as a mom. That was really one of the things. I started to feel really so much more power around my kids. My son was really challenging at the time that I discovered coaching. He was just 3.5, but such a handful. And I think that that was when I got bit by this bug that coaching and mindset can really unlock a lot of power for very busy, smart women who don't realize that just being smart enough is not enough to feel your best. And so at the time, this was in 2020, I started my business, which I called the Unstoppable Mom Brain. It's such a crazy and odd name to have for a business, but I remember, women would come postpartum after after having a baby, and they would talk about their brains in a negative way, like if they forgot something or if maybe their older kid was suffering because the new baby was here, they would say mom brain in a really kind of self-effacing way. And I really want to change the narrative that your mom brain is actually your number one asset if you learn how to unlock feeling your best. So that was when I started the Unstoppable Mom Brain, and I just started coaching professional women, many physicians, on weight loss. That was my initial gateway into feeling better. And as the years have gone by, my work has evolved into stress and weight loss because I realized they actually go hand in hand. And then this past year, I have taken it now to the next iteration of what I'm doing, which is hosting really intimate retreat settings. That's not weight loss at all. That's just purely wellness, purely feeling your best, unlocking feeling your best.
So I can completely identify with all of those things. I have an 8 and 10-year-old, and I still have the mom brain thing going on all the time. And I think I probably use it in, the same way. I can identify with the burnout. I'm an emergency medicine doc. Burnout within our field is very real. I don't think I really believed it until I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's for people who, like, go into the field, but they don't really know what they're getting into," very naive at the time and like, "Oh, yeah, I chose this field. This is what I wanna do with my life." And then, now I'm, like, 10 years in and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, like, what did I get myself into?" This is it. And so trying to find things that'll help you balance your career and having longevity within your career and raising your kids and raising your family and being able to show up as your 100% complete self and being able to give to them and also being able to take care of yourself and going on amazing retreats. And so travel is my thing. And I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about your retreat that you have coming up in Cabo. So tell us a little bit.
Yeah. So this retreat has been it's something that I like to think about it like I've had it on the shelf for a couple of years. It's been an idea that has been just a seed that got planted a few years ago, especially as an entrepreneur and as a coach. I have been going to a lot of retreats and conferences and masterminds and in person events. And again, going from physician to entrepreneur was a wild ride and wild journey because I never did that stuff as a physician. I would go to medical conferences where you get a lot of lectures and they can be amazing as well. But I never had been to mastermind events or in-person events like this up until a few years ago. And over the years, as I've been going to now many of these, I started to feel this itch to host something through the lens of what I have experienced as a busy professional woman, which is always being in service, always putting other people, whether it's your family, aging parents, your children, your patients, even your laundry and your charts will somehow inadvertently, in very invisible and sneaky ways, start to take priority over some of the dreams that you had for yourself. And I really think about when you reflect back, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't think any of us got into medicine signing up for burnout. We didn't sign up for that. We signed up to feel in service, right? To be in service. And yet we forget to feel that for ourselves. So over the last year or so, I have been putting together this retreat. It's happening in Cabo, Mexico in October, and it's going to really bring together some of my favorite parts about events which is they're half-day events. So our mornings are all going to be coaching and workshopping on how to unlock feeling your best, how to find those obstacles that have gotten in your way, how to really create a plan to take back home with you. And then my favorite part about this retreat, honestly, is the downtime. So you're not just in conferences all day and lectures all day. You have the afternoon to really relax and connect. And it's a very intimate small group. So you get to talk with other women who also want this, and you get to do it in beautiful Cabo.
I love all of these things. I love the idea of just going somewhere and taking the time for yourself to reset and to recharge. You're in beautiful Cabo for one, but then you're also focusing on things that you can bring back home with you, because I think you can go to a conference and you can do all these things and you feel great at the time. You're like, yes, I'm going to do all these things. And then you leave there and then you're right back where you started. And I think you brought up a really good point. We didn't go into medicine expecting that burnout was coming. We went in because we wanted to change things and, for various reasons. But you get there and you realize that there are all these things that are beyond your control. And I think that contributes to burnout in a huge way.
I think that there's two pieces to this. One is when we were in training and as like young children, and then as you go into training, one of the parts of us that got a lot of praise was the people pleaser in us. The person in us that was of service, that always put ourselves last, put ourselves to the bottom of the list to be of service, got a lot of accolades, got a lot of praise, got lots of pats on the head. And I was like number one, the number one people pleaser. Like my parents, I never stepped a toe out of line because of that part of me that got a lot of recognition. And I think what happens is as we get older, we don't realize that, wait a second, we're adults now. And if we don't prioritize ourselves and feeling our best and really giving ourselves the rest and the restoration that we deserve, nobody else can do that work for us. But it feels really uncomfortable, especially when you've gotten so used to being in service of other people. It can feel really uncomfortable. And I think that that's why, even retreats like this can feel like indulgent and frivolous. It's like, oh, who am I to give myself something that's such a luxurious experience? But I think that this is all how we've been trained to put ourselves at the bottom. And I think there comes a point that it's like, wait a second, what about me? Where's my life going? Like, I'm like, where did I go? Right? I think that that's kind of what these events are really all about.
Yeah, I think it's sort of ingrained in us, they kind of breed it into you. You put everyone else first and you put yourself on the back burner. Like, how many hours have you missed during residency? Like, how many times did you call in because you didn't feel good or you just couldn't come in for some reason? How many times did you take a personal leave day?
Yeah. And if you did, you were worried that people were going to talk about you or somebody's going to have some thoughts about you and you felt some shame or embarrassment or a lot of criticism. Like you're worried about what people are going to say. And I think that, this is where I think, especially I know I did this, so I'm guessing a lot of physicians have done this, where you start living like vacation to vacation. You start living for just that next PTO day that you're allowed to get off. And I think that is the other piece of this retreat and kind of any in-person live coaching experience that you can get your hands on. It's actually allowing yourself to unlock, like you don't have to just live in your vacations. If you can have a retreat experience, it teaches you new skills. And I think one of my favorite parts about our retreat is we're going to be having post-integration coaching calls. So after the retreat, we're going to have a few coaching calls where you really talk about like how are you integrating your massive wins and transformations into your real life. Otherwise, it is one of those things you feel great and then you come back and back to business as usual. So we have to build that in for, as a part of the structure.
Yeah. And I think what you just said is so powerful. We don't have to live within our vacation, or live for our vacation. You take that moment and you take that and you bring it into your life because it is very easy to go from, especially if you don't take vacation, you don't take your time off and you get that one moment, maybe once or twice a year where you decide I'm going to do something. I know I've met women who haven't taken vacation in several years, which is, it's hard coming from my standpoint where I'm like always on the go because I've now made it a priority. So I can't imagine just, working, working, working and not using that time off to really just reset yourself. And I love that there's going to be the coaching component afterwards. So you go to Cabo, you have this amazing trip, you meet amazing women who are there doing the same. And then afterwards, you have something that you can bring back.
Yeah, I am really excited about this entire experience. And I even was thinking about like what would lead anyone, especially if you're a physician and you're really overworking, like what would lead anyone to make a change? because it's really easy to stay married to your to-do list and to your schedule and the spreadsheet that you have of the jigsaw puzzle of your life. But I remember having this moment. This was like 2021, 2022. My daughter was like 5 at the time, and I'm like playing. I think I was playing either Uno or Sleeping Queens with her. We're like playing a game, but my mind was not there. My mind was thinking about my to-do list. And I remember thinking, she actually commented, because I furrow my brows when I'm thinking or when I'm kind of stressed about something. And she was like, "Mommy, why are you so mad?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't pull a fast one over on her anymore. She's picking up on my energy and me constantly thinking about work." And I think that was when I realized, in 10 years from now, or when I'm 80 years old, I'm not going to regret not working enough, but I will regret not knowing how to be present and not knowing how to actually enjoy my life as it is. And I think that that's one of the things that I really want to bring for more women.
And so during the conference, what can women expect from being present in Cabo?
Okay, this is so good. So it's basically like a 3.5 day type of event. So it's an all-inclusive experience. You just have to get there. And then it's like my intention with creating it was, you don't have to make a single decision. You walk in and everything is taken care of. It's all included dining. There's CME. There is going to be spa credit for you every single day, coaching and workshopping every single morning, relaxing in the afternoons. We're going to have dinners and welcome event for everyone. But in terms of the actual schedule, we've created a 3-day itinerary. So the very first day, we really want to unlock what it is that you have even been wanting. Can I tell you how, like, you might not even know. If I ask you, like, "Hey, so what do you want?" You might say, "I don't even know." I don't even know, because we've been so used to thinking about the wants of other people. So the very first thing that I really am trying to create is us getting back to what is it that I have been wanting. And then the second day is really focusing on what are the things that have gotten in the way of that? Where have my obstacles really come from? If it wasn't your time, it is your thoughts about time. It is your boundaries. It is how you say yes to things and no to things. I was sharing this with one of my clients. If you even spend 5 minutes per waking hour thinking that you don't have time, that's 9.3 hours per week, 485 hours per year. So I want to really help women that come to this retreat dispel the idea that they don't have enough time, even as busy physicians that are on call all the time. And then day 3 is taking kind of what you have learned from day 1 and day 2 and having a strategy in place where we craft, how are you going to take this home with you? That's kind of like the loose itinerary for how we're going to be thinking about this retreat. There's going to be a lot of fun activities, like silly activities that you might feel like you haven't done before. That's kind of my intention. You're going to come, it's going to be some things that you've never done before. And also just feel like, why haven't I done this before? Like, why didn't I do this earlier? That's kind of what I want to create.
And so how did you decide on the location for your retreat?
Okay, this is such a good question. I didn't realize how hard it is to find. I have this Goldilocks problem where it has to be just right. It has to be just perfect. And so when I was talking with my team about where I wanted to host this retreat, I had a lot of criteria. I really wanted it to be an adults only a space. Not that, I mean, I love my kids, but if I don't have them with me, I would prefer not to see kids running around. I mean, it's cute and all, but I'm here to just have an adult quiet experience. So finding a place that was adults only, I wanted it to be in a really beautiful backdrop. I think that we are surrounded by so much happening. You turn the news on, you open the front door, and we are surrounded by so many things that are happening politically and just around the world, that I wanted to have a actual physical space that let you feel like you can have an escape from what's happening in the world for a few days so you can recharge and restore. So it had to be a beautiful backdrop. I wanted it to be all inclusive because I didn't want you to have to think about anything. Like, you just come in and you can just eat what you like, drink what you like, and you don't have to think twice about it. And I really wanted the vibe, like there has to be an energetic vibe to the place. Like, it has to be beautiful rooms and beautiful spaces to do the workshopping. I think that just finding the best mix of all those is very hard to find that. So that's how we ended up at Cabo.
Well, you can sign me up right now.
I know. Yes, we actually just have just a few tickets left. So you should totally come. That'd be great.
I'm easily convinced that I should go anywhere. But what would you say to other high achieving women who are listening right now who maybe feel guilty about spending the time or money on themselves and especially for something such as like a solo trip or a retreat?
Yeah, this is a great question. And it's one of the number one reasons that you might wait, which I get. I think that if you ever have the thought, you know what, maybe next year, maybe when life is a little bit easier, maybe when things are a little bit more calm, I want you to know I hear you and I see you. And if there was an end to that sentence, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So this is the arrival fallacy where especially women believe when things are a little bit better, a little bit more calm, when I've done a little bit more work, when I've been a little bit more productive, then I will get to treat myself. Then I get to prioritize myself. So I think the very first thing is there is no then. The list will keep growing. You can always be more productive. I think the second thing, and this is what changed for me, when I think about my children, especially my daughter, I think about her in her 30s and 40s. And I ask if it was my daughter who wanted to live a really big life, if it was my daughter who wanted to dream big and have huge goals for herself professionally and huge goals for herself personally, if she felt guilty about taking time for herself, what would I think about that? And I realized I don't ever want my children to make decisions because they're afraid of guilt or because they're living their life based on guilt. I don't want guilt running their life or driving their life or driving their decisions. I want courage to drive their decisions. I want dreams to drive their decisions. I want love and passion to drive their decisions because I also find that those emotions are what makes world shakers and world like you want to change something in your professional career, it takes courage. It takes passion, right? Not fear and not guilt. And I think it starts with one decision and that starts to trickle into every other decision. So I think it's one of those things, when you've been waiting on yourself long enough, I think there comes a time where your status quo becomes intolerable enough that you're ready for a change. And we all come to that at a different point. I know that for me, it's like when I realized I don't want this for my daughter, so I have to go first.
And you are going first, and I appreciate that you're creating this space for women to be celebrated in this way and to really just change themselves because there are some things that you can change. You don't have to be stuck. I always tell people that you're not stuck at whatever job you're in that you don't want to be in. But there are always going to be those variables that are outside of your control. But you can change the way you think about something. You can change your mindset, you can change your approach to life, and you can have that courage. You can go and live life with passion and boldness and just embrace the life that you're given. And so I'm such a huge proponent of people, really taking advantage of opportunities such as this. And there's CME available. So if you've got CME time, go ahead and use that CME time. Because even though we try to say that we don't want you to feel guilty about what you're doing, but sometimes you do feel guilty. But I think you can kind of take some of that onus off of yourself and say, you know what, this is for my education. I'm using this to grow. It may be not education in the sense of like your traditional medical education, but it's education that's going to help change your life.
I cannot tell you every single time that I have gone to an in-person live event that has some element of coaching, I have come back feeling better. And when you feel better, that better version of you shows up in your work, it shows up in your family, it shows up how you tackle that task list that you have, how you go towards that dream that you have. When you're afraid or feeling guilty, like that's like the lowest denominator version of us. And it shows up, right? That's how it shows up in our life. And I think what we're talking about is giving yourself that grace and the regard to let yourself dream bigger because then it trickles into every single area.
You have permission. This is your prescription to travel and to take that moment and go on the retreat. So October, okay. So if you don't have any plans for October, and even if you do, shuffle those plans around because maybe this is your sign that that's where you need to be right now. And when you're not planning retreats, do you travel on your own and with your family?
I cannot tell you, I've become a little travel bug. It's like almost becoming a little bit of a problem. My husband, because we have to trade off. He has to sometimes travel for work to California. And now, before I used to have to look at his schedule, now he has to look at my schedule. He's like, wait, so am I allowed to go on that work trip or are you going somewhere? But it's always something. We recently just did a trip to India for spring break in April. It was a massive 2-week trip. That was amazing, and then we had some I've just been bopping all around conferences and events and retreats and summits just because I really feel so much more myself when I get to have time away from this sounds crazy, but I love having time away from the people I love. Because then I get to come back to the people I love, like, feeling my most full, and having a break, I think, has been really, really great. I do think there's too much, so, learning how to constrain and have boundaries around that is great, but I think probably every 1 or 2 months, I'm doing some type of a trip.
Yes. So you seem to be balancing it pretty well.
I've learned the lesson if I overdo it and like, on paper, it looks like it all works, but then when you actually go to do that much travel, you come back exhausted. So I've been having to, again, it's like a Goldilocks thing. I've been trying to find what is the perfect balance where I get the time for just me, where I get to recharge away from my kids and my family, and also what's too much time away, what feels like a good fit. So I think you figure it out once you start doing it.
You do figure it out. Yeah. And do you use points for travel?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I did not even know about the world of points before Devin. Devin has introduced me to like understanding credit cards and you have a business and there's a business credit card. And I'm like, wait, tell me how to log in. Where's the button that tells me about the points? Like I needed someone to really walk me through. But absolutely, I did not realize that just being a busy professional woman, you have a lot of spend, personal spend, business spend that you can leverage with points. So yeah, I feel like it's hard to travel without points because you can see that there's such a huge world out there.
Yeah, it is a huge world out there. And I think a lot of people don't, even people who are doing a lot of business travel, they don't realize just how much of an impact using credit card points for their personal travel, how much of an impact that can have on their life, especially when they have such high expenses already from, traveling and doing all the things that are related to a business. So
Yeah, especially if you're new, it can be overwhelming. Like if you're someone that feels really overwhelmed by it, like I see you. That was me. I think that there's a part of me that felt like I don't even know where to start when it comes to points or traveling. And I think that that's why I would just not do it because it felt so overwhelming. But I think what I'm learning now is like just even starting, just doing like one trip, try it once, see how it feels. And then like you get one under your belt, now you can do the next one just to get out of that perfectionism of feeling like you have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have it all figured. And now I'm learning, you don't have to have it all figured out. Just have one thing figured out and go from there.
yes. So what card is in your wallet right now?
Right now, I am actually really constrained. I only have the Amex Gold business. I have the Amex Platinum business, Chase Sapphire Reserved, and we have one more that we haven't really even been using, so that's it. But we've amassed points because they like have such good spend, like such good redemption. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, that's it, but, you just get started, and I love that you say that you don't have to, like, figure it all out now. You don't need a gazillion cards because even if you just have 1 card, just get 1 card, get started, and you can amass a world of points.
Oh, and the personal Amex Gold. That was a big one. I think that racked up a lot of points because of we're eating and grocery shopping all the time. So you want to get the 4x spent. Oh, yeah. So that was really good. Yeah.
Whether you're going to restaurants or grocery stores, you've got to eat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your most used card right now?
I think that probably my Amex Gold personal, just because like with the kids, with whenever we're out traveling, we're going to restaurants, we're going to grocery stores, like we're eating, it's like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like I feel like that's the one that probably gets the most personal use is the Amex Gold. I would say professionally, probably the Amex Platinum is the one that I'm using the most because if you have, I think it's over a 5K spend, you get more of a redemption. So with the kind of spend I do in my business, I'm often using I would say my Amex Platinum is the one I've used the most. I recently started using the Gold too for any professional restaurants or like going out.
And which card should they use if they're gonna book your retreat?
So it depends. I think if you have a business, then you should totally use your Amex Platinum. And if you are coming as a personal trip for just you and you don't have a business, then literally any card that you want. Make it worth your while. You get to decide, right? Like, where do you feel like you would get the most credit card points? I would just go there.
Alright, yep, if you use your Amex Platinum if it's the Amex Platinum, you'll get 5 times back on any flights that you're booking, and then Chase Sapphire, well, they made some changes, so has to be determined, but before you could use your Sapphire Reserve and get 3 times on any travel that you booked. I don't know if that applies to actual covering the cost of the retreat, but for your flights and hotels, something to consider. So, have you made any really good redemptions since you started using points?
I think my biggest one was going first class to India. That was huge. And I actually was on Devin's podcast talking about this entire experience because up until that point, I had always flown either economy, like, and growing up, we went to India all the time. It was either economy or basic if they had basic economy, that's what we flew. I think that that was the first trip that my entire family flew first class. And I remember my husband, because he also didn't really know points or have a big understanding of how to leverage credit card points. And when we took that trip, he was like, "How did you do that?" Because initially he was skeptical. He's like, this doesn't sound like it's too good to be, it sounds too good to be true. Like, I don't understand how you can do this." Like, he didn't feel as comfortable with it because he hadn't been used to doing it. But once we took that trip, that's when he was like, "Okay, this was amazing. How do we do this again?" We actually flew this last April, we flew business Emirates back from India via Dubai. And that was an amazing experience. And again, I would never have had that experience had it not been for points.
So how did you make those redemptions? Because I'm curious now, because I know India can be a challenging destination to get business class flights for a family of 4.
Yeah, this was one of those, we had to transfer points. We used Air Canada. So we transferred to Air Canada. This was like so long ago. We did a 2x. Oh yeah, there was a bonus happening. So when you transferred points over, it was 2x the number of points that got transferred over. So just because of that, we were able to book tickets. And I think we flew there Swiss and then we came back Emirates. But it was through Air Canada's 2x transfer.
Yep, so taking advantage of those transfer bonuses if they present themselves.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I'm really glad that you were able to come on here today and tell us a little bit more about what you do, your coaching services, the retreat that you have coming up in Cabo, using points for travel, and your amazing redemption to India, Emirates of all things. Really awesome. And I'm hoping that other people hear this and are able to take advantage of some of those things as well. So if you're curious to hear more about her upcoming retreat in Cabo, where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at burnstressloseweight.com/retreat. It has all the retreat information. There's a button there if you're interested where you can just I ask a couple of questions just to make sure that the retreat is a good fit for you, and then I'll get back to you. And I have a podcast called Burn Stress, Lose Weight, where I talk a lot about how stress, especially for the professional perfectionist, can really wreak havoc on our life. And I think that we all deserve to feel just a little bit better.
Yes. So make sure you tap into that. The retreat is not specifically focusing on weight loss, but it is again focused on stress relief. So if you're into that, just make sure that you log in to find out some more details about that. And it's open to professional women, not just physicians. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of physicians coming because I think a lot of my clients are physicians. But yeah, this retreat is not at all focusing on weight loss. I have an entirely separate group coaching program that's about stress and weight loss. This is more really about giving you the time that you have been craving to get back to yourself, to rediscover some of the things that you have been wanting to do that maybe has been on the back burner for a while, and having a roadmap on creating that for yourself, living the life you have now.
Sure. And I think that's important to bring up just because, again, there are a lot of physicians who are listening to the podcast, but there are also women who aren't, and you still fit into the category of benefiting from stress reduction in your everyday lives. So this is for all of you, and you'll be able to find the links to find Priyanka in the show notes. If you're a busy professional and you're dreaming of a getaway, a way to reset or recharge, and really just bring something back to change the way your everyday life is going, this sounds like it's going to be just for you.
I would love it, my friends. Yeah.
If you're dreaming of using points to travel more often and you don't know how to get started, I do offer points booking services as well as strategy consultations to help get you to your next destination. So make sure that you reach out to me at prescriptiontotravelmd.com and we can set up a complimentary discovery call. Make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure that you share this episode with a friend who needs a reminder to book a trip. Leave a quick review if you haven't already. Make sure that you reach out to Priyanka to get something set up with her as well. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Priyanka.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
All right, we'll see you again next time, guys.